I still hear her sometimes. In the dead of night, when everything is still, I hear that soft, mournful wail drifting through the air. It's a sound that crawls under your skin, gnaws at your soul. No one ever tells you how it feels to live in constant fear that she might come back. It started about 6 months ago. My daughter, Sophia, was only 5, a sweet little girl, full of life and laughter. We had just moved into a small house near the river, a quiet place where I thought we could build a new life. I didn't know. I didn't understand what lurked so close by. The first time I heard the crying, I was half asleep, a soft sobbing like a woman's voice carried on the wind, distant and faint. I thought maybe it was a trick of my mind, maybe some late-night echoes from the river, but then it happened again the next night, louder, closer, always around midnight. It was on the third night that Sophia mentioned it. "Mommy, who's the sad lady by the water?" My heart stopped. I asked her to repeat herself, hoping I'd misheard. "The lady by the water," Sophia said, her big brown eyes looking up at me with innocent curiosity. She was crying, but when I asked her what was wrong, she didn't answer. I tried not to panic. I forced a smile, told her not to worry about it, but inside I was shaking. I had grown up hearing stories about La Llorona, the weeping woman who roamed near rivers, searching for children to take. I never believed them. Not really. They were just stories, warnings meant to scare kids into behaving. But now, my daughter was seeing her, hearing her. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the house, every gust of wind felt like a threat. I stayed up, sitting by Sophia's bed, watching her sleep. Then, just after midnight, I heard it again, clearer than ever before. The crying. It wasn't just sobbing anymore. It was wailing, long drawn out, filled with anguish and desperation. I stood up, heart pounding, and went to the window. The air outside was thick with mist, but through the haze I saw her. A woman in white, standing by the edge of the river, her head bowed, her long black hair hanging like a veil over her face. Her body was impossibly still, but her cries filled the air, echoing through the night. I wanted to look away, to shut the window, but I couldn't. I was frozen, trapped in her grief. And then slowly, she lifted her head. Her face was pale, gaunt, eyes hollow and black as pits. She looked straight at me, her lips forming words I couldn't hear. But I knew what she was saying. I had heard it my whole life. "Mis hijos, ¿dónde están mis hijos?" My children, where are my children? I stumbled back, breath catching in my throat. When I turned to check on Sophia, my heart nearly stopped. She wasn't in her bed. "Sophia!" I screamed, rushing out of her room, my panic rising to a fever pitch. I tore through the house, searching every corner. The front door was wide open. I ran outside, calling her name, feeling the cold night air cut through me. My bare feet hit the damp grass as I sprinted toward the river, and there she was. Sophia, standing right at the edge of the water, her tiny hand outstretched toward that woman. "No!" I screamed, lunging forward and grabbing her just as her foot touched the water. The woman's face twisted, her eyes narrowing as I yanked Sophia away. Her wails turned into something more, a piercing, furious scream that rattled the air. I fell back, clutching Sophia in my arms, shielding her from the sight of the thing that stood there, glaring at us. For a moment, I thought she would come for us, that I wouldn't be able to protect my child. But just as suddenly as it began, the screaming stopped. The woman in white turned, melting into the mist, disappearing into the night as if she had never been there. But I knew she had. I knew she was real. I carried Sophia back into the house, locking every door and window behind us. She was quiet, as if in a daze, not fully understanding what had happened. But I knew what had almost taken her. We never stayed in that house again. I packed what little we had and left by morning, taking Sophia far from the river, far from the place where she could find us. But it doesn't matter how far we go. I know La Llorona's reach doesn't end at one riverbank. Now, every night, I lie awake, listening. Sophia doesn't talk about the woman anymore, but I can tell she remembers. She still wakes up crying some nights, and when I ask her what's wrong, she just shakes her head, as if she's too afraid to say. And me, I hear her, the weeping. Some nights it's faint, far off in the distance, but other times it feels like she's right outside, just waiting for me to make a mistake, waiting for the chance to take my child again. I don't know why she didn't take Sophia that night. Maybe it wasn't her time, or maybe somehow I got lucky. but I live with the fear every single day. Because once you've seen La Llorona, once she's set her eyes on your child, she doesn't forget. I know she's still out there, watching, waiting, and I'm terrified that one day I won't be fast enough.